At my birthday party, my grandfather asked me which of the Montgomery sisters I intended to marry without a moment's hesitation. I chose the youngest, Serafina. A wave of shock rippled through the older generation of my family after all. It was common knowledge in our circles that Julian Blackwood, heir to the Blackwood Corporation, was deeply in love with the eldest Montgomery daughter, Isabella, and spoiled her to the point of absurdity. In my past life, I could marry Isabella, but just 3 months into our marriage, I found her in a secret meeting with my half-brother, Adrian, the illegitimate son my father had sown his wild oats to produce. Her eyes were filled with tears as she looked at me, her voice trembling. "I'm begging you, Julian, it was just a mistake, an accident." My heart softened. I forgave her. But my grandfather found out anyway and had Adrian sent overseas. Isabella, convinced it was my doing, hated me for it. In the years that followed, my family members passed away one by one under suspicious circumstances. Our business was constantly undercut, our corporate secrets stolen. Then, on the very day Isabella found out she was pregnant, I was killed in a hit-and-run reborn into this life. I decided I would let them have their twisted love story, but I never expected that when the news of my engagement was announced, she would show up in a wedding dress crying and begging to marry me. After leaving my grandfather's study, I saw her immediately, Isabella Montgomery. She sat among the guests in a stunning designer gown, but her eyes kept darting toward the entrance when she saw me. Her friend nudged her. "Your little puppy, I mean your loyal watchdog, is here. Why is it you? What are you doing here?" Isabella glanced at me, her voice thick with disappointment. If this were my past life, I would have rushed to her side, whispering reassurances, but the image of the truck bearing down on me was still seared into my brain. I replied coolly, "It's my birthday party, why wouldn't I be here?" Sensing the ice in my tone, Isabella's face flushed with anger. "Julian Blackwood, what is that supposed to mean? Are you trying to pick a fight? I took time out of my schedule to grace your party, and this is the attitude I get? Don't think just because you ran to your grandfather this marriage is a done deal." Her friend immediately jumped in. "Exactly. What's with the attitude, Julian? Apologize to Isabella right now if you weren't shamelessly chasing her all the time. She wouldn't even give you the time of day." I was speechless. "This is my party. If anyone is unhappy, the door is right there for my marriage. My grandfather will make the official announcement at his 80th birthday celebration next month. It has nothing to do with you. So, don't trouble yourself over it." Even though I intended to marry Serafina, I hadn't asked for her consent yet. Despite our connection in my past life, I couldn't just announce it here and now. "The marriage?" one of the guests asked, his eyes lighting up. "It seems the two patriarchs are finally ready to step down. That means the next head of Montgomery Industries will finally be decided. Our grandfathers had been best friends their whole lives and were long overdue for retirement. The Montgomery family, however, only had daughters in this generation, so the two old men made a pact. Whichever sister I married would receive Grandpa Montgomery's 20% stake in the company. In my last life, that 20%, combined with the 15% she already held, made Isabella the undisputed leader of Montgomery Industries. After our wedding, the power dynamics at Montgomery were about to shift. Hearing this, Isabella's friends beamed. "Isabella, you're really going to be the new CEO?" A triumphant smirk spread across Isabella's face. "Julian, don't think you've won just because I'm marrying you." I hate that smug, social climbing look on your face more than anything, she continued. "I'll learn from the mistakes of my past life. I can marry you, but on my terms and before we get married. You will give your pathetic half-brother a senior position in your company." I was about to tell her the marriage had nothing to do with her when I froze. She was reborn to a past life. It was a tip from a Montgomery family servant that led me to discover their affair. To think that in this new life, she still planned Tio. I was about to have her thrown out when a timid voice called out from behind me, "Brother." Adrian Blackwood approached, his face bruised, Looking so frail, he immediately drew the sympathy of the crowd. Seeing him like this, Isabella's face softened, and she rushed to his side. What happened? How did you get hurt like this? Who did this to you? Before Adrian could answer, Isabella spun around, her eyes glaring daggers at me. Julian, is this all you know how to do? Pathetic, underhanded tricks. I was about to explain when Adrian cut me off. That's nothing really. I just took a little spill on my way here. Today is my brother's birthday, even though he's never liked me. I still wanted to come and wish him well. Hearing this, Isabella shot me a look of pure contempt. Julian, if you had even half of his grace. Before she could finish, Adrian gently took her arm. Isabella, please don't be angry. I believe that one day my brother will be able to let go of his resentment towards me. This only made Isabella more protective. She looped her arm through his lat. Let's go find a doctor. We can't let this leave a scar. As she was leaving, she shot me one last cold, threatening glare. Julian, watch yourself if you ever lay a hand on Adrian again. I can't guarantee our engagement party will happen as scheduled. With that, she swept out of the room, Adrian in tow. Later that evening, as the party officially began, Adrian and Isabella weren't nowhere to be seen. It wasn't until the party was winding down, with only a few close friends and some business associates schmoozing, that the two of them finally sauntered in. Isabella had changed her clothes. Her face was flushed, her lips slightly swollen. Adrian looked like the cat that got the cream. The collar of his shirt unbuttoned just enough to reveal a faint red mark on his neck. Everyone knew instantly what had happened. Their amused glances darted between the couple and me. Only my closest friends shook their heads, looks of pity on their faces. If this were my past life, I would have charged over and beaten Adrian to a pulp, but now I simply picked up a glass of iced tea from the table and took a sip. Isabella shielded Adrian, bracing for my outburst, but when she saw me ignore them completely, her brow furrowed in annoyance. Adrian called Isabella to him and started kissing her right there in the middle of the room. She didn't resist, instead settling onto his lap. If they wanted to debase themselves, what did it have to do with me? My best friend, Liam, however, couldn't take it anymore. He stormed over and pulled them apart. Adrian, Isabella is practically Julian's fiancée. Have you no shame at all? Before Adrian could retort, Isabella shrieked, Liam, who do you think you are? I seem to recall your family's portfolio has quite a bit of Montgomery investment, doesn't it? Why do you have to talk to me like that? Let me tell you something. Julian hasn't even said a word. Who are you to lecture me? Isabella. Watch your mouth, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Liam was a true friend, and I wouldn't let her insult him. Grandpa Montgomery hasn't retired yet. What makes you so certain I'll choose you? That you'll get that 20%. At my words, Isabella froze, then burst into laughter. Are you trying to spite me? Julian? Please, everyone in our circle knows you're obsessed with me, that you'd never marry anyone else. And look at the other Montgomeryers. My sister is married off in London. My other sister is a recluse who calls herself an artist, and my brother is a degenerate currently making license plates upstate. What, you want to join him in prison? Then, as if a thought struck her, she added, whatever the reason, Julian, I hope you understand that the feuds of the previous generation are over. No matter how much you hold a grudge, your mother isn't coming back yet. It's better for everyone to just move on. Adrian is innocent in all of this. Innocent? I had a laugh when my mother was pregnant. Adrian's mother showed up at our door with him in tow. She swore my father had forced himself on her, then abandoned her, viciously accusing my mother of being a homewrecker in the ensuing argument. She shoved my mother down the stairs. My mother and my unborn sibling died. Only later did the truth come out. Adrian wasn't my father's child at all. He was the son of my deadbeat uncle who had died young. Adrian's mother was nothing more than a cocktail waitress from some dive bar. Innocent. How innocent were my mother and the baby brother I never got to meet. Lost in thought, I fell silent. Isabella took it as my agreement, right? She said, her mood brightening anyway. It's your birthday. She casually took off one of her earrings and tossed it at me. Here. This is your real present scene, miss. Adrian immediately chimed in. Darling, do you really think I like it? What if he accuses me of stealing his original gift again? He loosened a brand new tie around his neck, a tie that was clearly meant for me. Isabella's coughed. Don't you worry. He doesn't like nice things, he only likes things I've used besides, she added. What do you mean? Originally his. Once I give it to you, it's yours, they both snickered. The earring hit my face, the sharp end scratching a thin line of blood on my cheek. I felt nothing but disgust in my past lives. I did have a habit of collecting things Isabella had used, the barrette from her hair the first time we met, the necklace she wore at our wedding, the watch on her wrist at her inauguration as CEO. I'd ask for each one, keeping them in an ornate box as treasures, as a testament to our love. She laughed at me, calling them cheap junk she'd throw away after one. These objects become precious when imbued with sentiments. He never loved me, so of course she'd never understand. I sighed, picked up the earring that had fallen onto my jacket, and tossed it into a nearby trash can. Trash belongs in the trash. Isabella's face contorted with rage. Fine, Julian. Just you wait, our engagement is as good as cancelled. Later that night, Adrian and I arrived home at the same time. He was glowing with triumph. So what if you marry her, Julian? You can have her body, but you'll never have her heart. Oh wait, she probably won't even let you touch her. I was able to cause your mother's deaths, and I can just as easily steal the woman you love. Just you wait, Julian, everything that's yours will eventually be mine. He thought he could provoke me, but I just gave him a passing glance. Well then, I hope you enjoy moving out of the guest house someday soon. Without another word, I walked past him and into the main house. My grandfather found me later and told me that Serafina Montgomery needed more time to consider my proposal. Isabella had probably forgotten she even had a younger sister. Mr. Montgomery had a daughter who years ago fell in love with a police officer and gave up her inheritance to join the force herself. They were both killed in the line of duty, leaving behind their only child, Serafina. The decision had caused a bitter rift between father and daughter. After her death, Mr. Montgomery was consumed by regret, but Serafina was raised by her other grandparents and rarely visited the Montgomery estate. My proposal had reminded him of his debt to her. Even if she didn't marry me, the old man would now ensure she received a part of the family fortune. Isabella was so certain she would inherit Montgomery Industries. She had no idea the full inheritance was never within her reach. I was very much looking forward to seeing how this life would turn out for Isabella Montgomery. On the day of my grandfather's 80th birthday party, every person of note in the city was there to ensure the night went smoothly. I went over my grandfather's health status one last time with his doctor. Spotting me, Adrian walked over. In the past few days, Isabella had been taking him on lavish shopping sprees. His Instagram feed was a curated stream of their intimacy. Brother, he said with a smile, your fiancée is just the sweetest person. She took me out and bought me all these luxury brands. She even took my measurements herself for a custom-tailored suit. When I ignored him, he pressed on. She also said that after you two are married, I shouldn't feel like an outsider. We all family, and it's what family does for each other. My conversation with the doctor was being repeatedly interrupted. I turned, ready to tell him to get lost, but I stopped when I saw the brooch pinned to his chest. That brooch was a birthday gift from my parents when I was a child. My mother personally designed it, and my father commissioned the finest artisan in Switzerland to create it. It represented their wish for my lifelong happiness. After the accident that took my mother's life and sent my heartbroken father to a monastery, I never received another birthday gift from them. The brooch was one of a kind. I never even dared to wear it myself. I grabbed Adrian by the collar, slamming him against the wall, towering over him. I growled, "Where'd you get that brooch?" Adrian's eyes immediately welled with tears. Julian, I know you've always hated me. I've always thought of you as my real brother. Isabella just felt sorry for me and bought me a few things. Even if you're angry, You shouldn't resort to violence. I wasn't buying his act. My grip didn't loosen as I snarled. I'll ask you one more time, where did you get it? Adrian just stared back with wide, innocent eyes, disgusted. I reached to snatch it off his lapel. My wrist was caught in a firm grip. A cold voice sounded from behind me. Julian, what are you doing? Are you trying to assault him in broad daylight? Isabella stood there, shoving Adrian, her eyes blazing with fury. Is this how the Blackwood family treats its own? Seeing her, it all clicked because I'd been cold to her at my party. She told me she was going to come today and win me over. Adrian must have panicked and orchestrated this little scene, but I was done talking to these two. I pushed Isabella aside and stared directly at Adrian. The brooch, give it to me. A flicker of guilt crossed Adrian's face, but with Isabella beside him, his bravado returned. Isabella bought it for me. Julian, you, Ray, being so petty. You have so many nice things, why do you always have to take mine? Is that so? What did she buy it? What's the brand? Can you even name it? Security, I called out, told him down and take the brooch. As the guards moved forward, Isabella threw herself in front of Adrian. Until you dare. I'm Isabella Montgomery. If you harm me, you humiliate the entire Montgomery family. I'm telling you. Julian, I bought him that brooch. Are you really going to assault someone in public? You think I won't call the police and have you arrested? Hearing her words, and seeing Adrian cowering behind her, my anger finally boiled over. Isabella had seen that brooch before, even if she'd forgotten. With her eye for luxury, she had to know it wasn't something you could buy off the shelf, yet she still chose to protect him. I let out a laugh. The cold humorless sound good. Call the police. Let them sort it out. I'll see if I'm wrongly accusing an innocent man, or if we have a thief in the Blackwood family. Seeing my resolve, Isabella wavered for a second. She glanced doubtfully at Adrian, then seemed to remember why she was here. Julian, I know I went too far the other day and you're still mad, but we're still getting married. Before she could finish, Adrian's hands trembled as he unpinned the brooch. Anything from you is a treasure, Isabella, but I can't bear to see it make my brother so angry. If you want it, Julian, just take it. I'll always give you whatever you want. Isabella's expression softened, but as he offered it, she snatched the brooch from his hand. No, you can't let him win every time in the struggle. The brooch slipped from her grasp, hit the edge of a marble planter, and shattered. I completely lost control. I lunged forward, my hand closing around her throat. Do you have any idea what you just destroyed? I hissed. Isabella choked, gasping for help as the guests stared in shock, pointing and whispering, what is this? Are they not even pretending to hide their family drama anymore? Someone help! He's going to kill her with the help of the crowd. Adrian saw his chance. He kicked me hard, sending me stumbling into a corner. Julian, I can take your anger, but how could you do this to Isabella? Adrian said, helping her up, his face a mask of false concern. I can't believe the heir to Blackwood Corp is like this behind closed doors. Looks like the other son is the good one. You don't see him much, but he seems like a decent guy. It must be a case of love turning to hate. He chased Isabella for years and couldn't get her. Now he's bitter. TSK. The only way he can keep a woman is through force. The murmurs of the crowd swelled, but all I could see was the shattered brooch on the floor. I struggled to my feet to retrieve the pieces, but Adrian stepped on my hand. Oh, sorry, brother. I clenched my fist, but a sharp female voice cut through the chaos. How are you all doing? Seeing her, a smile spread across my face. She was here. That meant she had chosen me. The banquet began. Guests offered their blessings to my grandfather, who responded with polite pleasantries. I looked across the room at Serafina, but was interrupted by Isabella, who hadn't spared her rarely seen sister a second. Glance, she leaned in and whispered to me, I can make up for what happened earlier, but today you have to announce that your brother is joining Blackwood Corp. Otherwise, I won't let our wedding go smoothly. I said nothing, watching as some of the guests began to flatter her. Suddenly, my grandfather's expression turned serious. My grandson is not a young man anymore. It's time for him to build a family, and a career building a family is paramount. As he spoke, he looked towards Mr. Montgomery. Isabella, seeing this, subtly smoothed her hair. And so, I see that my Julian and the youngest of the Montgomery family, Serafina, have found a deep affection for one another. They are a wonderful match today. I will take the liberty of finalizing this union on their behalf. At the same time, I will be transferring my shares from this day forward. The Blackwood Corporation is in Julian's hands. The room erupted in thunderous applause. It took a moment for the reality to sink in. The Blackwood family was aligning with the youngest Montgomery daughter. Isabella froze for a second, then confirming she'd heard the name Serafina, she shot at Grandpa Blackwood. There must be some mistake. Mr. Montgomery shot her a withering glare. Insolent girl. Marriage is not a game. My grandfather had made it perfectly clear. The one to marry into the Blackwood family was the youngest daughter, Serafina Montgomery. The hall fell silent. No one dared to speak to break the tension. I stood up and bowed my head in thanks. Mr. Montgomery, I am honored that you would entrust Serafina to me. Mr. Montgomery looked at me with a warm, but satisfied smile, but then Isabella screamed, impossible. Serafina? Where? It can't be. You must have made a mistake. He rushed to Mr. Montgomery sighed, her voice laced with disbelief. That's impossible, Grandpa. You'll have to be mistaken, right? You told me before that I was the one who would marry Julian. Mr. Montgomery shook his head sadly. I can't force love. My dear, it was Julian's choice. He chose Serafina. Hearing this, Isabella spun back to me, her eyes wide with a desperate hope. Julian, it's a mistake, isn't it? He chose me that day. Our grandfathers must have misheard, right? I found the whole thing laughable. No. I said coldly from the very beginning, I chose Serafina. In fact, what on earth made you think I would ever choose you? Isabella's head snapped up, her eyes filled with disbelief. She staggered backward. Tz. Bumping into a table, the impact seemed to jolt her back to reality. She let out a piercing shriek. You are lying. You love me. Everyone in our circle knows you love me. How would you choose her? She's nothing. The daughter of a woman our family disowned. At this, Mr. Montgomery's face turned ashen. He had carried so much guilt over his youngest daughter for years. He would not tolerate Isabella slandering her memory. He barked at the butler beside him. What are you all standing around for? Get the youngness home now. The Montgomery family retainers, finally snapping out of their shock, moved to escort Isabella away, sensing the tide had turned against her. Isabella began to scream, Grandpa, it has to be a mistake. Julian and I have been in love for years. We promised ourselves to each other. Are you just going to stand by and watch him abandon me like this? She was grabbing at straws, shouting anything she could think of. The guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Serafina, hearing the accusation, frowned. I stepped forward calmly. Mr. Montgomery, I have no idea why Miss Isabella is saying these things. I have only ever thought of her as a sister. I have never crossed any lines, nor have I ever had any other intentions. I paused, then delivered the final blow. The man she claims to be in love with, perhaps she means my cousin, Adrian? Isabella stared at me, her face a mask of panic. No, that's not Julian. I was always going to marry you. How could you? She stopped, a look of sudden realization dawning on her face. I get it, you were angry because I didn't defend you earlier. You are just using Serafina to get back at me, aren't you? And the other day, you were mad because I left with Adrian and ignored you. Julian, Adrian and I were just trying to make you jealous. It was a game. I only truly love you. I looked at her, my expression like ice. Please choose your words carefully, Miss Montgomery. It doesn't matter who you love. The only person I have ever wanted to marry is Serafina. Hearing this, Isabella went berserk. She fought against the guards, trying to get to me. Liam stepped in, blocking her path. Liam in my past life and this one. He was always so loyal in the past. He'd warned me several times to be wary of Isabella, But I hadn't listened. In the end, his family's business collapsed, and I knew Isabella had a hand in it, seeing Liam in her way. Isabella screamed, "Get out of my way, you nobody! You have no right to speak here!" And faced. Liam calmly recounted the events of my birthday party to the stunned crowd. Mr. Montgomery had finally had enough. "Silence! You disgraceful girl! You've shamed the entire Montgomery family! Take her away!" He roared, and she is not to leave the house without my permission. As she was dragged away, Isabella was still shouting, her voice filled with a desperate, crazed conviction. "Julian, you love me most, don't you? You and Serafina don't even know each other. You're just doing all of this to make me angry." I ignored her and gave Liam a grateful pat on the shoulder. As for me and Serafina, in my past life, we knew each other very well. Overnight, the story was all over town. The eldest Montgomery daughter had thrown a public tantrum to marry into the Blackwood family. The mysterious youngest daughter had staged a secret coup and successfully married into wealth. I paid the gossip no mind. I had just taken over Blackwood Corp, and there was a mountain of work that required my personal attention. But no matter how busy I was, I made time to see Serafina. In my past life, I'd handled many projects at Blackwood Corp. One of them involved supplying materials for a military contractor. My point of contact was Serafina. In that life, Serafina never returned to the Montgomery family. Instead, on the strength of her own brilliance, she earned a position at a top-secret military weapons research institute. After my car accident, I was taken to a private hospital, alone by the Montgomery family. It was still a chance to save me. That Isabella refused to authorize the treatment. I died from blood loss. My death was so sudden that Blackwood Corp descended into chaos, everyone scrambling for power. Only she came to see me standing before my lonely gravestone. She stared at my picture and murmured to herself, "If I'd known it would end like this, I never would have stepped aside and let her have you so easily." Reborn. I had changed my choice, but now, as I faced her, I was suddenly at a loss for words. Seeing my hesitation, Serafina asked softly, "Is there something on your mind?" "Yes. I was just wondering why you agreed after all. I don't think we've ever met. I was thinking, if you didn't agree, what would you have? Married Isabella?" She cut me off, the question seemingly very important to her. I was taken aback for a moment, then gave her my solemn promise. "No. I would never marry Isabella even if you had said no. I would have simply given up on the merger. Business deals can be remade. I couldn't betray myself by being with her, fearing she would misunderstand." I continued to explain, "But you seemed to like her very much before. I once had parents who are deeply in love after what happened. I blindly chased an imaginary ideal of that perfection. It wasn't until I died that I realized I was only lying to myself. I was young. If I didn't have something to fixate on, life felt meaningless. It was only later that I understood you can't call that love. Serafina and I made a pact. 3 years. If after 3 years we felt we weren't a good match, we would let each other go. As for why she agreed to my proposal, she still didn't tell me. But in this life, I had a lifetime to find out." Our wedding was set, with the engagement party scheduled for next month. The two grandfathers wanted to honor tradition, so for the past few days, the formalities, the endless stream of gifts befitting a merger of this scale, flowed into the Montgomery estate. Today, I was with the household manager, finalizing the details for the engagement party. Unexpectedly, Isabella found me. Her eyes were red and puffy, as if she had been crying for days. She grabbed my wrist, her voice pleading, "Please don't be angry with me anymore." I gently pulled my hand away and motioned for the manager to escort her out. "I've apologized. I've been punished. Why are you still so angry? Do I really have to cut off all contact with Adrian forever for you to give up on marrying Serafina?" I let out a surprised laugh. "Why would you think I would ever give up on marrying Serafina? Impossible. Serafina? What right does Serafina have? You never even met her. How could you possibly love her? All these gifts you've been sending. It's all just an act to make me jealous, so I'd come and apologize, isn't it?" You are incredibly self-absorbed. Do I need someone's permission to send gifts to my own fiancée? All right, Julian. Stop it. Marriage is not a game. If you go to our grandfathers now and tell them you've changed your mind, it's not too late. I was astonished. Why would you call this a game? I genuinely want to marry Serafina, and even if she didn't exist, it would never have been you. Isabella stared at me. Her faith and math could disbelief. Impossible, Julian. Do you dare say that again? I had no desire to argue with her madwoman. I ordered security to forcibly remove her as she was being dragged away. She screamed, "You just wait. Julian Blackwood. You're going to regret this." No sooner had one left than another arrived. Walking back into the courtyard, I found Adrian waiting for me. Well played. Julian, you Ray, a real puppet master. Pitting two Montgomery sisters against each other for your affection. You did all of that just to get Isabella to get control of Montgomery Industries. They shame you picked the wrong sister. Someone know nobody means Serafina. You were so close, yet you still fumbled. I told you before, Julian. Besides the name you were born with, you have nothing. Because of what her mother did to mine, Adrian's mother was in prison, and he was barred from ever working at Blackwood Corp. Despite that, he wanted for nothing in terms of lifestyle. The story about him living in the maids' room was a pathetic lie he fabricated for sympathy. His actual quarters were only slightly smaller than mine in my past life. Once he was sent abroad with no one to watch him, he lived an even more extravagant life. I was quite curious to see how things would turn out for him this time. After that day, Isabella began messaging me constantly, sending DMs across every platform. She blocked and deleted Adrian from all her contacts and begged me to change my mind. I continued to ignore her. 10 days before our engagement party, she went completely silent. A sense of unease settled over me. I told my assistant to keep a close watch on her. On the day of the engagement party, the ballroom was filled with guests. Serafina was a vision in a traditional cheongsam that highlighted her elegant grace. Guests offered their congratulations. Our grandfathers sat at the head table, their faces wrapped in smiles. Her hand rested on my arm, and I could feel the delicate warmth of her skin. Neither Adrian nor Isabella were present. I breathed a sigh of relief. It was best if they just stayed away. The ceremony began. Guided by the MC, Serafina and I walked onto the stage. Besides her grandfather, Serafina had no other family, only two well-built men who stood discreetly by her side. I took Serafina's hand, ready to place the engagement ring on her finger. Suddenly, the lights in the ballroom went out. The large screen on stage flared to life, displaying enormous, glowing words. Julian Blackwood is a cheating bastard, and Serafina Montgomery is a home-wrecking whore. The moment the screen lit up, the room erupted in a chaotic buzz of gossip. It was Isabella. Of course, she finally couldn't stand it anymore. Everyone, Look at what these two morally bankrupt animals have been doing behind everyone's backs. Isabella's voice, amplified by the sound system, echoed through the hall. On the screen, a slideshow of photos appeared. Pictures of me and Isabella from our childhood. Look, Julian and I were childhood sweethearts. He was my boyfriend since we were kids. We were deeply in love, and I gave myself to him completely. But who would have thought this homewrecker, Serafina, would come along and seduce him? They conspired together to steal my rightful inheritance. How can a man like this be fit to lead the Blackwood Corporation? How can she be fit to inherit Montgomery Industries? Isabella cried and screamed, her voice breaking with emotion. Her performance was so convincing, it immediately garnered the sympathy of the crowd. I heard the Blackwooder was supposed to marry the eldest Montgomery daughter. I wonder why it suddenly changed to the youngest. I've never even heard of a youngest Montgomery daughter before. Where did she come from? Could she really be the other woman? I bet she is. They grew up together. What else could it be? It seems the Blackwood heir isn't so reliable after all. I thought he was a stable, loyal man. But look at this mess. The Blackwood Corporation is probably doomed. The tide of public opinion turned against us in an instant. Just as I was about to speak, Isabella's mother ran onto the stage. Julian Blackwood. To you heartless monster, you got my daughter pregnant, now you're going to marry this outsider? Do you have a conscience? The room gasped. Isabella, feigning weakness, pulled at her mother's arm. Mother, stop. I told you not to say anything. Even though Julian betrayed me, I still have feelings for him. I can't bear to get rid of this child. She turned to my grandfather, Grandpa Blackwood. Don't worry, I won't disturb them. I'll have this baby on my own. I'll raise him myself. I just beg you, please let me keep this child. It's the only thing I have left to live for. In a corner of the ballroom, a camera was quietly streaming the entire scene to a live platform. The internet descended on the drama. I thought the Blackwood family was all about class. This is what they teach their children. That Shelfina girl is obviously a gold digger. No shame at all, climbing the social ladder like that. I know them. Julian and Isabella went to the same high school and college. Looks like he really is a TM scumbag. Serafina moved to speak, but I held her back. We had known Isabella wouldn't go down quietly, but seeing the sheer volume of vitriol, I could tell Serafina was upset on my behalf. I gave her hand a reassuring squeeze, then stepped forward to face Isabella. The calmer I appeared, the more agitated Isabella became. Julian, she sobbed, are you still going to stand there and mock me even now? My face was grim. I looked her straight in the eye and asked in a steady voice, Isabella, I'm going to ask you one last time. You claim we were childhood sweethearts, that we promised ourselves to each other. Is that true? Isabella frowned but answered, of course it's true. We grew up together. You even said you were gonna marry me. How? Is that so? Then, what is this? With a tap of my phone, the large screen behind me changed. It was now filled with pictures of Adrian and Isabella kissing, embracing, intimate photos from all sorts of occasions. A few of them were even from their high school days. After being reborn, I had started digging into their relationship. I never imagined it went back so much further than I thought. The crowd gasped again, their shocked gazes falling on Isabella. Seeing the photos, a flash of panic crossed her face. She quickly recovered. That's not real, Julian. Not only are you a cheater, but now you're faking photos to frame me? Do you have any shame at all? Oh, I looked at her. My eyes filled with amusement. Isabella was starting to panic, but she continued to deny everything so the photos can be faked. What about hotel receipts and security footage? With another tap, the screen displayed a long list of hotel check-ins and crystal clear videos of the two of them entering a room, wrapped in each other's arms. The hotel was one of the flagship properties of Montgomery Industries. Isabella never imagined that in just one short month, Serafina would have already gained access to all of the company's core divisions. Pulled these records, the online viewers exploded. Whoa, plot twist. This guy gets around again. On one hand, she's telling Julian he's the love of her life. On the other, she's all over this other guy. Who could put up with that? I wouldn't marry her either. Wait, so it's all reversed? Then whose baby is it? I don't know. Man, the lives of the rich are wild. Isabella looked as if all the air had been sucked out of her. She never thought I would not only be prepared for her attack, that I would have investigated her past so thoroughly, but Isabella's mother refused to back down. What about the baby? That is Blackwood family blood. He would be born the eldest grandson, the true heir. Are you really going to abandon him? So what if my daughter wanted to have a little fun before getting married? That doesn't give you the right to abandon your own child to marry another woman. I let out a cold laugh and dragged Adrian into the spotlight. The moment Adrian heard about a baby, he rushed to Isabella's side and hugged her. Isabella, is it true you're pregnant? Marry me, or I can marry into your family. He want to be with you forever. The sight of Adrian seemed to flip a switch in Isabella. She tried to kick him away. Get off me. That's not your baby. Adrian clung to her, wailing, it has to be. We've been together constantly for the last 6 months. Isabella, this is our child. Isabella shrieked, trying to push him off. But it was too late. The story was out of her control. My grandfather and Mr. Montgomery could no longer stand the spectacle. They ordered security to drag the two of them off the stage, seeing her plan in ruins. Isabella made one last desperate attempt. Julian, do you think Serafina is some kind of saint? Haven't you seen those two men who follow her everywhere? What's the relationship? Do you even dare to ask? Could she explain that? At her words, I glanced at Serafina. She gave me a slight nod and stepped forward. I can explain that. Her voice was clear and steady. I'm a lead researcher on a classified government project. The men you see are plainclothes officers assigned by my superiors to ensure my safety. A wave of stunned silence, followed by a roar of murmurs, swept through the hall. Mr. Montgomery looked at Serafina, his eyes shining with immense pride. Isabella was hysterical, but I still wasn't satisfied. She could try to ruin me, but she had no right to drag Serafina into her mess. Isabella, I said, my voice cutting through the noise, since you're so concerned about my life, allow me to offer you a little tip in return. I played one last clip. It was a video of Adrian with a tall, imposing man. The scene was intimate, with Adrian in a submissive role and the other man clearly in control. No one said a word, but everyone understood the implication. Isabella froze completely. She turned, looked at Adrian, and slapped him hard across the face. In the end, the live stream was shut down by the platform, but the wedding of the Blackwood Corporation Garand, the brilliant military research scientist, received the blessings of thousands. Isabella and Adrian were never seen in our circles again after we were married. I asked Serafina why she had chosen me. She told me it was something that happened back in high school. An orphan. She was often bullied. One day, I'd stepped in and defended her, and I vaguely remember the incident. I was on the student council and had heard from a teacher about a student in a difficult situation. I defended her on principle, never connecting the quiet girl to the powerful Montgomery family. Eventually, all the shares of Montgomery Industries were transferred to her children's names. Serafina continued her work at the Research Institute, serving her country and me. No matter how busy I was, I always made time to pick her up and bring her home, and just like that, we lived a happy and fulfilling life.